Welcome, Secretary Yellen. I appreciate you being here today. Today's hearing is about the state of the international financial institutions, but I do want to take a minute and talk about the debt ceiling crisis that we narrowly avoided. First, we're all glad that this is behind us. No one wanted default, no legislative branch official, no executive branch official. Your statement says waiting until the last minute hurts American credibility. I agree. Madam Secretary, this could have been dealt with by the President, Speaker Pelosi, last year in the last Congress, or the President could have engaged sooner with Speaker McCarthy when they met on February 1st. But nonetheless, Mr. Biden signed into law an effective compromise. That said, there's a lot of frustration, particularly about the lack of transparency on when the Treasury Department expected the debt ceiling to be breached, otherwise known colloquially as the X date. At the end of February, the Chairman McHenry wrote you requesting information and your projections and calculations. Simple enough. The response was lacking, to put it mildly. This committee and Congress as a whole did not hear from you again until May 1st, after the House passed the Debt Ceiling Limit, Save, and Grow Act. Two different X dates, June 1st and June 5th, were subsequently released. Zero explanation, zero transparency. We all have to have confidence in the fiscal analysis of our government. Now I'd like to turn back and focus on the issue of the day, international financial institutions. Let's start where we agree. With the nomination of World Bank President Ajay Banga, Banga is a serious, competent leader who has the capacity to right the ship at the World Bank and continue the improvements and leadership from the former president, Mr. Malthus. The World Bank and the IMF should be laser-focused on eliminating poverty and helping countries overcome crisis. But unfortunately, the international financial institutions seem to think about everything except economic growth. They've fallen into a bottomless word salad of empty rhetoric that serves Western NGOs, not the interest of developing countries. No wonder China has become the world's largest official creditor, even though its lending terms are often more burdensome than those of the international financial institutions. Africa is a helpful case study. Your recent response to our letter regarding energy was helpful, and we are grateful for that letter, but Treasury is opposing virtually all fossil fuel and nuclear projects in the multilateral development banks, even though half the continent of Africa doesn't have access to electricity. How does this make sense? Who is eager to build infrastructure there? China. Meanwhile, the IMF has completely failed to bring that country into compliance with international norms, that country being China. The fund must get serious about standing up to Chinese government if it takes its mission long-term seriously. If the fund keeps letting Beijing drag out restructuring talks with borrowers, there won't be much of a case for additional IMF resources at the end of this year. There's no doubt that China poses a generational threat to our national interest, but as long as we remain committed to our values, the U.S. will compete and outcompete the Chinese Communist Party. I look forward to your testimony, and I yield back.